struggling to come to grips with reality. Confusion and chaos have become part of me. I seek answers to know where my liberation lies. Only in peace and calmness does that clarity arise. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. So many voices, so many interpretations. No answers given, only outer temptations. Where can I find that truth inside of me? Realization of what I am is all I'm wanting to see. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmissions. The wisdom transmissions. No more redirection, ending the contemplation. Forget fighting reflection. Outer world's a projection. Internal is the cause, external's an effect. Put it on pause. I'm silencing the noise, centering, entering void. Truth is beautifully subtle, the voice without a voice. Heart and mind shall settle, making decisions now, escaping illusions of choice. Transmissions of wisdom bring me insights of reason. Let my mind expand to the higher states. My mortality is no longer at stake. Let me hear the wisdom transmission. The wisdom transmissions.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Hopefully my microphone is working well this time, and you're all able to hear me okay. I have no more microphone blunders. Again, hope you're all doing well. Welcome to, again, Wisdom Nexus here on Friday. So we're going to have a very interesting broadcast today. We're going to be looking into the topic of evil is creating the Great Awakening. Now, this is going to be kind of a mixture of different things. I will be pulling a little bit of tarot into certain things, but I don't really need to do that because this is something I've looked at very extensively, based through my own intuition, based on Adronis's information in the past, based on tarot information I've done, based on Anoint research I've also done at the same time. So we're going to have a very interesting discussion pertaining to that. Of course, I know what is rocking the internet right now is, of course, an event that took place just a couple of days ago. Maybe we'll elaborate a little bit on that as well too. And again, take some questions from you guys as well. So we'll do some personal readings. We'll do some general topics at the same time as well. But before we go ahead and get started, we're going to go ahead and move into some announcements. The sound is great. Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm still using the same old microphone, but I was able to kind of take it apart and make sure it was working okay. So my guess is it had some loose components or something like that. So it's working better now, so I'm glad to hear that. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some announcements first before we get into a lot of the stuff today. So first announcement, again, is wisdomtransmissions.com. So again, I have my private live sessions, 3 questions by email, and energy cord attunement sessions. Those are available right now. I am moving the full body scans when I launch the Anoint Array website. Now I'm still working on the Anoint Array website. I've been trying to get it up for about the past week. There's still just some tweaks I have to do with it because it is a big website. There's a lot of different forms of functionality with it. It gets a little bit stubborn at times, but it's getting closer. Once the Anoint Array website launches, and I'll be making a video here when it's done, hopefully this weekend. I was trying for last weekend, but it didn't want to cooperate with that. We're going to have a full body scan together with sacred geometry, right? So we're actually going to be creating arrays. It's kind of like taking etherics and the full body scan and putting them together. So that is going to be available on Anoint Array. And once that debuts, like I said, I'll be letting everybody know. But on Wisdom Transmissions, you can take a look at the services. You can also take a look at the online classroom here, which is patreon.com/Adronis. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial. It's $18 per month. Be part of the weekly Zoom classes. You can also post questions on Patreon directly for Adronis. And I do another one called Adronis Answers, which is a video that I put on the Patreon, specifically for people that ask Adronis questions. So that, again, is available. Patreon.com/Adronis. Now, some very exciting news is we are currently creating the next version of RAYD8. Okay, so again, I've done a video on this just a few days ago, and this is our current campaign. We almost have 50% funding, and we've only been on here for about 3 days. That's outstanding. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to do some more updates here this weekend as well too, just giving the idea like of some concepts of what we're going to be seeing in the brand new RAYD8. But to go to Indiegogo, the Indiegogo campaign, just go to the video description. Okay, so just click in the video description. You'll see the link directly for the RAYD8 Amrita Indiegogo campaign. So far, like I said, we've raised $4,640. We're basically looking for a $10,000 goal because I'm paying half and I wanted to have the other half available for everybody else. This is exactly how I did it with the very first RAYD8, is that, okay, I'll do half if everybody else wants to do half, and then we'll create RAYD8. So I'm just doing the exact same thing again. It is a little bit more of a bigger budget because there's a lot more features contained in RAYD8. If you guys have not checked out the presentation video of RAYD8 Amrita on my YouTube channel, it's one of my recent videos. Please check it out. It's going to be really exciting. This is really going to be a game-changing application. It's going to be both a mobile app and a web app as well too. So just like the first RAYD8 is on mobile and it's also on a web app, this will be the same for the second version of RAYD8 called RAYD8 Amrita. So again, we have a lot of different features on it. I won't go too much into it in the announcements today, but you can find out more in the presentation video that's on my channel now. Okay, so you can check that out. So again, if you want to offer your support, this is always appreciated. Again, there's all the information here about what RAYD8 Amrita will include is all talked about here. Our financial goal, the support tiers we have. So again, we have tiers where you can basically do a $200 apprentice, where you'll have the light version of RAYD8 Amrita for life, and you'll also have the master version, which means you'll have RAYD8 Amrita for life with all updates, with everything. You only need to pay it through $500. And then you have this incredible application available. Is it going to be very similar to the first one? It's going to be much bigger, much better, and much broader than the first one. We're actually taking it to where we're actually going to start using biofeedback technology into RAYD8 Amrita as well too. So you can actually hook up biofeedback devices and you can take RAYD8 to the next level. We'll also have like a heart rate monitor as well too, where your camera on your phone and the flash on your phone can actually be used to connect to your heartbeat, to your pulse rhythm, and that the interface will actually start interacting with you. It will help to lower your heartbeat or will help to increase your heartbeat based on everything that you see on screen, working together with all of the functionality of the sacred geometry the source sensor vibration, the frequencies that will be contained within the glyphs, the colors, everything. It's going to be an absolutely extraordinary technology. So if you really like the first version, you have not seen anything yet. We are taking it to such a higher level. And like I said, we're going to have like a virtual Tesla coil. We're going to have mathematical arrays that you can download, that you can print out. You can put it on your bed. You can actually start getting rejuvenated while you sleep. So in a way, this is going to be like a type of med bed at the same time, because you'll be able to print out arrays that you can use, put them on your bed, put them in leaflets, and then just start having a med bed-like effect with that just through a RAYD8 app. So it's going to be incredible. There's so much other stuff that's coming in with RAYD8 Amrita. So again, check it out. You will find the link in the video description here on the live here. Okay, moving on. And my fiancée, Brianne, has created her own Patreon account. Okay, so it's patreon.com/readingswithbrie. You can also find that in the video description. So she has now started to create her own Patreon. She's doing readings. She's doing special videos as well too. Brianne's content is just getting better and better. So if you want to check that out, just go to patreon.com/readingswithbrie. Once again, you'll find the link in the video description. And of course, as I talked about, there's patreon.com/Adronis. We do weekly classes every Sunday. And again, there's a 7-day free trial. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here and get started with today's broadcast. Let me just go ahead and move my microphone up a little bit more. There we go. All right. See the dreaded red microphone coming back into the picture. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and just making sure that my microphone's not too loud for you guys. Okay, the sound is not too good, too much echo. So let me just see if I can turn it down a little bit. I was just about to say that. So I've cranked it up quite a bit. So let's go down to about this range. Okay, you guys can let me know if that sounds a bit better. Oh, it's on your browser. Okay. Yeah, just make sure there's not extra speakers on or something like that. Sometimes that can create feedback. But again, I noticed it was kind of in the red, so just adjusting it accordingly. All right, so let's go ahead and get into today's topic. Like I said, evil is creating the Great Awakening, right? And that is extremely true. So through a lot of my research, originally one of the topics I was going to talk about today was going to be about the age of Pisces moving into the age of Aquarius, but I'm going to save that for next week. With this week, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that because we've been seeing a lot of horrendous things that have been happening within this past week alone about murders, people being killed, assassinations taking place and so forth, and saying, my God, what is going on? Are they trying to instill even more fear on people? Well, of course they are. That's their whole nature of what they do. When we talk about they, we're talking about bloodline families. When we're talking about they, we're talking about bankers. When we're talking about they, we're talking about oligarchs. When we're talking about they, we're talking about sinister, despicable, ancient secret societies. Okay, that would represent their conglomeration. When we talk about they, we're talking about a Khazarian mafia. When we talk about they, we're talking about Rockefellers. We're talking about Rothschilds. We're talking about all of this whole conglomerate of corrupt. And what they have been trying to do, I mean, what gave them an advantage in the past was their ability to stay clandestine. But they can't do that anymore, right? They have had a whole plan that, especially as they move into the new millennium, into the time of the 2000s, well, as we're moving into the 2000s, and if we're looking at numerology, when we look at the number 2 in the 2000s, we're looking at the feminine, right? We're looking at a much more compassionate energy filling the planet, and they have tried to take advantage of that. They basically have tried to make the idea that compassion is weakness. And a lot of the new children that are coming here on the planet, specifically those who have been born on 2000 or afterwards, have that very compassionate heart. They're not fighters, right? The new children, the new generation that is here are not fighters. But when we look at the older generation that came before them, specifically in the 1900s, well, that is the masculine vibration. 1 plus 9 equals 10. Take away the 0, and you have the 1. Okay? So the people born in the 1900s had that masculine drive, had that masculine energy. They were the fighters. They were the doers. They were the trailblazers. In fact, a lot of the technology that has stood out very strongly has been the ones that have been created back in the 1900s, right? Not so much the ones that are today, right? Not as strong as the ones that have been established since the 1900s, because those are the trailblazers. Those are the ones that have really taken the ball and run with it. That's the strong masculine energy. They are driven, they are determined, they are assertive. And when they look at the new generation that has been built out of the 2000s, they look at these kids and they say these kids have no backbone. They have no backbone whatsoever. They have no sense of drive or determination within them. Of course not, because they are not ones. They're twos. And as they are twos, this is representing the idea of moving into the age of Aquarius, right? The age of Aquarius represents a feminine age, right? Now, of course, Aquarians represent a bit of a different number than the number 2, but number 2 does play a part with Aquarian energy altogether. Like I said, that was going to be my original topic. But what we're seeing here is, through the time of the 2000s, is that this was seen as a time where a lot of those, we'll call it the old guard, right, the cabals, were trying to delay everything until the 2000s, because the 2000s would be much more of a feminine age. In their particular mindset, they would feel that humanity would be so unbelievably submissive and basically try to look the other way when a lot of these particular fear agendas would take place. And they feel, well, we're moving into this new millennium, it's moving in, and like I said, this is what they use, my friends. They use numerology, they use ancient numerology, they use astrology, they use the ancient sciences. Why? Because they're the most efficient, and they work, and they're true. And so they work with that, and they will say, well, we're moving into the 2000s, and these new generations that are going to become, they're going to be coming forward, they're all heart-centered, and they're all weak, basically, in their mentality as well. And we're going to be able to pull off everything in the 2000s. But they've backfired, because what the 2 also represents is unity consciousness. Okay? And that's the nature of the number 2. And that's something that they have overlooked. He said, well, you realize that 2s are about unity, right? They come together, they work together, they contribute. It's about community. Oh, whoops. So this again was where they backfire. Yes, of course, they don't have that backbone of the number 1. They don't have that drive. They don't have that fire burning in their eyes. You know, they don't have that kind of strong masculine push, so to speak. They're much more feminine. It's the cup, right? But what they have is unity consciousness. What they have is togetherness. What they have is interconnectedness. And with all of these things that have been going on, this is leading into the Great Awakening, because this is what the 2 is well known for: partnership, unity, communion, community, right? Moving into unified consciousness. So that is exactly what they are creating, and they are scared to death of that. This is the event that they fear the most. The event they fear the most is people coming together, people actually banding together and standing strong together. They have tried to separate. Now, when you're in a one vibration century, for example, then that's easy to do, because everybody wants to be on their own. Everybody wants to be independent. They have no intention really of working together, right? If they work together as well, somebody's got to be working under me, right? I don't want to feel like I'm equal to them, or they're equal to me. That's the one mentality, right? The one wants to stand on the top of the mountain. The 2 doesn't. The 2 wants to hold hands with other people all around the mountain, you see? And this is where they blundered. And so when they start doing all of these things, when they start becoming a lot more vicious and violent and horrific relating to all of their deeds, then that's not going unnoticed, because what the 2 also represents, like I said, is that community, that communion. It represents interconnectedness. And so when you're going against the grain, and you're basically doing all these things against a society that can pinpoint all of these things that you're doing, because nothing really remains a secret anymore, everything's out in the open, because that's the 2 energy, right? The 2 energy represents the idea that nothing can stay clandestine anymore. Everything needs to be brought out into the open. That's what the 2 does. The 2 shares. The 2 expresses. The 2 communicates. The 2 is bringing about all of these things that originally were kept in the shadow and saying, oh, hey, look at this. Oh, hey, look at this, right? It's actually the best time for a grand awakening, a great awakening. And this is exactly what a lot of these oligarchs and old guards and cabals have done. They have underestimated the power of people, because with these oligarchs and cabals, they are living in such a bubble. They do not know how the world works. They try to make the world work after their saying, what they feel they want. And they want to command the world to do exactly as they want, rather than the idea of thinking that they know the world, because they don't. They don't know the average person. They don't know what people are capable of. And that this whole idea of the vibration of the number 2 for the 2000s, right? Even when we're in 2025 right now, the forefront is still the number 2. The number 2, the number 0, the number 2, the number 5. We still got those double 2s right there. And that still represents a strength, okay? So what they have feared the most is people waking up. People waking up, people talking to each other, people unifying, and this is exactly what they're creating. They are trying to silence things with that old guard, particular type of masculine dominant personality, and they're fools. And that is not what's going to enable this to be quiet. It's going to be talked about. It's going to be learned from. So again, a couple of days ago, when we saw the end of Charlie Kirk, when he was assassinated in the university in Utah and killed, again, you think that would probably scare a lot of people away. But what it has actually done, and what they've done, is they have made Charlie Kirk a martyr. They've now made him a saint. And now that they've made him a saint and a martyr, you're now going to have millions of Charlie Kirks running around here in the next little while. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to be following his example of just questioning everything, right? And of course, what happened to Charlie Kirk should never be deserved for anybody, right? But when I look at Charlie Kirk, I didn't think he was that smart. I really didn't think he was that smart of a guy. He was a very strong intellect. He was very intellectual. But what I liked about him was that he always questioned things, right? Just question things, question things. I don't think he was a good debater. I don't think he was very intelligent, but he had intellect, right? And he basically had a lot of respect from a lot of people, because he would be there and he would basically stand by his beliefs and so forth. But you can't have beliefs if you're a debater, right? If you're a debater, you got to get those beliefs out of there, right? You got to learn to be neutral. And I don't think he did that well. But what was really good is that he connected with people, right? He opened up and he created a forum for people so that people could communicate and talk and debate about these things. And so with him being killed in the way that he was, especially in regards to how he died when he was shot in the throat, right? So basically that is a very strong symbolism. When we look at somebody who has been killed through a bullet through the throat, that is the perfect idea of a symbolism, representing silencing the voice through authority, right? Basically authority trying to silence the voice of the people, because Charlie tried to speak a lot for people, right? So that is a very symbolic assassination that took place. When we look at, again, how Charlie died, and again, that bullet through the throat, that is very much what the elitists and cabals and orders of this planet have been trying to do to everybody. Silence them with the bullet so they can't use their voice. That was a very deep symbology, and nobody caught on with that. I'm the only one who noticed that. He was killed. He was shot in the throat. And he was shot while he was talking as well, too. He was saying something, I think it was about war or fighting or something of that nature, and he got shot in the throat at the same time he was talking. And that's the perfect example of the symbology of what's been happening on this planet for a very, very long time. We have all been shot in the throat when it came to the ability of speaking our truth, speaking our voice, sharing, and we become silenced. What happened to Charlie is actually something that is going to be echoing out for the next thousands of years. his assassination is going to be talked about for hundreds of years to come, because it represented such a very pivotal moment of a young man. So he was a kid, basically. He was only like 31 years old. He had a wife, he had 2 kids. But of a young man standing up, talking to thousands of other people in attendance about, again, looking at conservative views. And he was killed for it, and he was shot in the throat. So this is what I'm talking about, my friends. We've all been shot in the throat, right? But the whole idea of being shot in the throat with the voice is that now other people are seeing what they could not see before. It is an eye-opener. And what they have just triggered is another big transformation into a great awakening taking place upon this planet. Some people are saying, oh, it's people from China, or it's people from this campaign or that campaign. Who cares? That's not important. What's important is the symbology of exactly what happened here. The idea of Charlie getting shot, speaking at the same time, and getting shot through the throat, and being silenced. That is an analogy that should be shaking across the entire playing field of humanity right now, and saying this is what has happened to thousands of people who have tried to speak up in the name of truth, who would be silenced. Right? Charlie was a living example, a living symbol of what took place, of what has been happening to all of us who have been able to stand up, question the status quo, and now start to be silenced because of that. We get shot in the throat, right? We get shot in the throat in many different ways. We get shot in the throat because we get ridiculed online. We think that we're a bunch of crazies because a person's standing up to the status quo, because they're questioning things. You get shot in the throat, right? So exactly how Charlie left this earth, and believe me, he's not in pain now. He's very much in the light, right? You don't have to worry about Charlie. He's very much in the light right now, right? He's being loved where he is. And this is where I say, it's like, you're only in this body for a certain amount of time. Even when there's tragedy taking place, your loved ones are always going to be around you, even when the moment happens when you leave. And he has lots of loved ones. He's cherished in the light, right? He is not suffering. He did what he came here to do. And this is, again, how he needed to exit. Because how he exited is going to light a fire under thousands of people. And it's going to cause unity consciousness. Now, this is not just the only thing that's going to happen. There's going to be more events like this. I believe there was a Ukrainian woman as well, too, a young Ukrainian woman who was stabbed in the neck by a murderer. I think it was on a bus or a train or something like that nature. And again, this is being shown, right? People are seeing these things happen. And so when we see this, and we see just more senseless killing, and you're seeing a bunch of these killers getting a slap on the wrist, and then just saying, okay, just go out, just don't do it again. And they go out and they do it again. This is again, just a message to letting us know, is this what we want? Is this what we're going to stand for? More and more people need to see it. And it goes back to exactly what Adronis and what I have been sharing, is that through tragedy comes unity, right? Through tragedies comes the greatest unity consciousness, and this is the event that the oligarchs and that the cabals are absolutely terrified of. What they don't realize they're doing is they're creating the very great awakening that they're scared the crap out of. That's scared the crap out of them altogether. That's the last thing they want, but that's the very thing that they're creating. It's exactly what Adronis was saying last week, pertaining to food industries, pharmaceuticals, etc., is that what they're going to fear the most is people waking up. Is people going to see exactly through their charade of everything that they're doing, that they're promoting chemicals, not food, that we're eating drugs, not food, and people are going to be standing up against that, right? This is it, but we have to see it with eyes wide open. You can't see it with your eyes closed, right? When you see what happened with Charlie, when you see what happened with that young woman, when you see what's happened with these murders, with these assassinations, with these takedowns that have been happening, and you see it, you cannot unsee it now. And saying, that's enough. I'm getting together. I'm joining the flock, right? And that's it. It's a big flock. Why is it a big flock? Because we're in a 2 century, right? We're in the century of 2. And in the century of 2, you will come together. You will commune. You will have a collective voice. So that if they ever try to shoot you in the throat, you have a unity consciousness behind you. They're not going to be able to shoot all of you in the throat. The only reason people have been shot in the throat is because there's been one person, one voice. What happens when there's 1,000 people and 1,000 voices? What about 10,000 people and 10,000 voices? What about 1,000,000 people and 1,000,000 voices? They're going to shoot everybody in the throat? Nope, they can't. Because there's more of us than there are of them. And when you have people coming together in the millions, marching down city streets, where it is almost, you can't even see the ending of where the people stop. It's like a sea of humanity that's walking down the streets and saying that we've had enough. We want these governments out. We want these leaders taken care of. We want these things done our way, and we're not going to leave until it's done. My friends, that's what's ahead. That is what's ahead for every single major city within the next couple of years. You are going to see millions of people out in the street protesting because they've had enough. Because what they're going to do, and even throughout this year as well too, there's going to be more of these things. There's going to be more of these false flags. There's going to be more of these attempts or successful attempts on people who again have represented speech, right? Who have tried to share truth. And it's going to happen more. This is not the end of it. There's more coming. Okay? It's not just that. There's more false flag events coming, specifically with Trump being president as well too. This is something, even in his first term, this is something that went through the roof, right? With all kinds of false flag events, of course, COVID being the biggest one. But that was still happening as well during his first campaign. And now that his second term is here, we're going to see it a lot more. And what it is going to lead to is a breaking point to where the mass awakening is not only here, but they're actually taking steps forward. Okay? And 2026 will represent the beginning of that time. 2026 will represent the idea of a new beginning. When we're looking at this current year, well, this is a year of culmination, but it's also a year of death. Okay? What it means, again, is that we're seeing the fruits of actions that have happened, particularly over the past 9 years, and seeing how everything has culminated together in that way, and it's horrifying. Right? We're going to see a lot more bridges getting burned. We're going to see a lot more fire being erupted. We're going to see a lot more emotional volcanoes. All of that is going to be coming about still as we move closer to the end of the year. But as we move into 2026, like I said, this is a fire year, right? This actually holds a masculine aspect pertaining to next year. And that's the 1 vibration, right? And that's where, again, the 2 is joining together with the 1, and it's actually going to bring about a harmony. It indicates that now the mass awakening has legs, and now they're going to start stepping forward. There's going to be a lot more protests. There's going to be a lot more questioning. There's going to be a lot more breaking down of old boundaries. There's going to be, again, a lot more scandals, a lot more violence. It's going to be a very violent year next year too, right? I know people don't want me to say that, but that's the truth, right? There's going to be riots. There's going to be fighting. There's going to be fires coming about. There's going to be people on stage. They're basically just going to want to be getting barraged by angry people, right? Even leaders that are trying to come out to try and calm everybody down, they may even be afraid of assassination, right? So basically when we see a lot of these crooked leaders all over the planet, different nations, trying to come in to address the people basically want their heads, right? It is not going to be a safe year for leaders next year, okay? Even though it's a fire horse year and it's very strong pertaining to leadership, it's the idea that leadership is going to be questioned, but not only questioned, it's going to be opposed, right? It really represents the idea that the number 1 is driven, is determined, is committed, right? And if you have a collective consciousness that is driven, determined, and committed to getting to the truth, no fancy leader with good charisma is going to be able to go up there and calm down this crowd, right? So 2026, again, representing that nature of the fire horse year. It is the 1 vibration, okay? Then, of course, we get into 2027, and this is where things really get intense. 2027 equaling out to the number 11, okay? When you have an 11 year, An 11 year is emotional highs. You are looking at so much emotion that is going to boil to the surface. You just won't really know what's left, what's right, what's up, what's down anymore, because the emotions were run so incredibly high. So with this high emotion, there will also be grander communication. Okay, so 11s are all about being the master communicator, the master planner, right? They're kind of like the master charisma, but they're also all about emotions. And when you get into the state of emotions themselves, specifically on a collective level, emotions are going to run high. You probably will see a lot of riots in 2027. You're probably going to see a lot of fighting in that. But again, like I said, a lot of these things, what happens is that when people start coming together, they will start creating counter groups. And these counter groups that come together will try to act as the violent ones, right? They will try to start riots. They will start to pillage and fight. They'll be tipping cars over. They'll be performing arsons and stuff like that. And that's not coming from the Great Awakening. That's coming from people that are trying to dispel the crowds by saying, oh, they become violent, and now we got to bring the police in. So they're going to do that. That's exactly what they've done with so many protests in the past, is they've created counter groups. They will also try to plant racist flags against these groups as well, too, saying that they're a bunch of Nazis, that they're a bunch of white supremacists, and so forth. And they're going to do that too, right? But it won't matter. It just won't matter. The Great Awakening will come, and people have had enough because people have seen enough horrors. All of these people who they have basically invested so much of their heart into, that they have seen pass away right before their eyes in horrific ways, is going to light a fire under them into such a way that, again, community is what's going to happen. Communion, standing tall, working together, holding the line. That's precisely what's going to be happening. So what I've seen here over these next couple of years are, again, city streets in major cities all over the planet filled with people that you just can't disperse them. Does not matter what psychological tactics you use. Does not matter what you try to paint on the media. You just will not be able to disperse them. Right? And they're even going to try and get police involved. They're going to try and get riot police together. People aren't going to budge. And what's going to happen is that they're going to get so overwhelmed that nobody is going to believe anything relating to what these corrupt leaders have said anymore. So what we are seeing is that coming onto the streets, coming together in the hundreds of thousands and the many millions through major cities all over the planet, we're seeing people converge. And that will be the end of old leadership. When the people do not budge, when the people refuse to cooperate, when the people will not feed your machines, what are you going to do? You have to concede, right? Those people are the ones that are supplying you money. Those are the people that are buying all of your product. What happens when they stop? Right? What happens when the people now have woken up to the point where they are not going to be bullied, they are not going to listen to anything in regards to what these corrupt leaders will say anymore? Well, there you go. It's all part of a grand change that's taking place. And this is going to lead to much more sovereign independence, particularly with countries, right? Like I said, specifically here in Canada, we have what's known as the Wexit, right? Where we're looking at Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, possibly areas of British Columbia as well too, the Yukon, Northwest Territories. All of them are basically looking to create a coalition. If this is a coalition that takes place, then we're seeing a massive sovereign independence. And I'm glad that this would be happening in my neck of the woods. It's exactly what Canada needs right now. It's basically a Western Canada alliance or a Western Canada coalition. And it's probably going to become its own country, right? I don't know if it'll join up with the States or not. I'm feeling that that probably will be a possibility. If not joining up with the States, but basically having a very strong tie with them, yes. Because I have felt that the idea of part of Canada is going to be part of the States, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. But I think that's still a very big possibility. But nonetheless, Western Canada is looking to separate. It's moving into sovereign independence. That is exactly what you want. You want sovereign independence. So just again, how there was the Brexit, right, where they wanted the release from the European Union. Well, that is exactly what's happening with Canada. They basically want to release from these liberals, right, who basically have ignored Western Canada for decades. And so that is taking place. And like I said, when you have a lot more of these things happening, where people are talking, and you actually are starting to talk about sovereign independence, that's a big step in a positive direction. That's all part of Great Awakening. And that's the last thing they want. They're not under their umbrella anymore, right? And now they're going to try and infiltrate, and they're going to try and do all these despicable things, but they're going to be stopped in their tracks. Because again, people are now waking up to their devious tactics. When you really look at their playbook is very predictable, right? Because these guys have no form of imagination whatsoever. They will play with psychology. They'll play with psychological tactics. But when you understand their psychology books, you realize, I know this is exactly what they're going to do, and now we can counteract that. I know this is exactly what they're going to try, and now we can counteract that, right? So it's just a matter of being able to look at their old playbooks, because they will go through it there. It's like a little phone book, and they try A to Z of all these things. They're trying to corrupt people and trying to bring everything down, but at the same time, they are being hunted as well. So like I said, they're not safe on this planet. They completely live in a life of fear, and these are mafia members. These are mobs. That's really what we're looking at. You're looking at a bunch of gangsters, you're looking at a bunch of mafia members, you're looking at a bunch of mobs, and you're basically looking at mafias that just run the country, right? You're looking at all these criminal cartels and organizations that are running countries, right? And these criminal cartels and organizations basically own corporations. So again, I'm not really telling you guys anything new here, but that's just how the branches connect. But when you have unity consciousness together and people coming together, then, like I said, that is the greatest fear of them. Because if they have people that are against them in every particular way, well within the hundreds of millions or even the billions, it's done for them. They can't do anything. It doesn't matter what lies they try to pull. It does not matter what they try to corrupt from inside. The immunity of the collective is too strong. They will not be able to do anything. That's where we're going. That's where we're moving. And that's what we can expect to see between 2025 and 2029. Between these next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we are seeing the complete and total Great Awakening, growing legs, and now occupying the entire planet. That's going to be amazing to see. So that is what I wanted to share with you today, is the nature that this evil, that these cabals in that sense, are basically creating the Great Awakening. They are creating something that they fear the most. And like I said, it's just a matter of being able to see this. And like I said, as we're in the number 2 year, the number 2 century, I should say, it's about coming together. It's about unifying. That's what this collective is in alignment with that 2 path. People coming together, people talking, people working together, people standing tall together. That's where we're going. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to some questions now. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's go ahead and start with some donation-based questions first. So those will consist of personal readings, and then of course once we get those done, then we'll move on into some general topics as well. So let's start off with Gijo Matthew. Gijo Matthew, welcome back. He said, could you please do a scan of my stomach? Okay, yes. So again, if you guys wanted to leave a donation where there is a single scan that you want me to do, then that's not a problem. Okay, so I'm just going to tune into Gijo's energy here just for a moment. Okay, and Gijo, I will go ahead now and just tune into your stomach. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, Gijo, your stomach is at 65%, so it's pretty low, okay? So it's very important that, like I said, it's good to start working on alkaline, right? Start alkalining your system. Like I said, the stomach is the organ that gets hit the hardest, specifically when we start putting all of this uric acid, right? Sulfuric acid, phosphoric acid that comes from meats, okay? There's a lot of heavy meat eaters here. You need to be mindful of this, because what meat basically does, and like I said, I was a big meat eater myself. I was eating meat all the time until, I decided, okay, that's it, enough, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore, because meat is just constantly hurting my body. It basically just eats away. It eats away at your kidneys, it eats away at your tissues, it wreaks havoc with your digestive system. It pulls out all of those fibrous minerals within your gut. Purging it out makes you heavily constipated. There is no benefit to meat when it comes to the human body, right? And I know there's a lot of people that try to say that there is a lot of benefits. Okay, really, show me the evidence. Show me the evidence of particular laboratory scans or blood tests that are indicating that people who are eating meat, especially those on carnivore diets, are actually being healthy, right? Show me exactly. How's their gut motility? Is their gut motility improving because they're on meat? How is their look of their intestinal linings? Is their intestinal lining improving because they're on meat? How about the condition of their stomach? Do they have any particular forms of low stomach acids? Is their stomach acid twisted, right? Is it basically being polluted because they're on meat? How's the shape of their kidneys? What does their urinalysis show pertaining to people who eat meat? And I would ask those questions. They'll say, okay, I'd like to see those actual results. And they won't do it. And they'll continue to complain and say, oh no, you just gotta eat meat, you gotta eat meat all the time. Like, no, man. If you look at the entire nature of our body, even when I've talked about this with Adronis as well, he said the entire human body is shaped for herbivorous foods. We are herbivores. Okay? You are not meant to be a meat eater. I'm not bashing anybody because they want to eat meat or anything of that nature. But if you're looking to get healthy, meat is not the way. Okay? And like I said, that's what I thought I had to do because I was been in keto and paleo and all this particular type of stuff, thinking that I'm going to get healthy. And you feel horrible. Your vitality is low, you're grumpy, you're emotional, because what you're putting into your body is acids. So Jijo, it's very good that, again, you're looking into your stomach, but like I said, it's time to go alkaline, right? It's time to alkaline your food. Like I said, look into Dr. Sebi's alkaline food list. There's a whole bunch of foods there that you can start trying. Look into some of the herbal teas. Okay, we have things like yellow dock, burdock, sarsaparilla, that is Sarsaparilla. Okay, we have Nepal, which is a cactus. We have what else do we have? We have burdock. I'm trying to remember all the ones that I'm saying here. But just utilizing some of those particular herbs. Chaparral is another one. Chapparal. Chaparral is pretty potent, pretty strong. It's good to start off with it small. But just working with these simple herbs as well too, and just making teas on a daily basis is a good way to start off. And then as you start getting much more into it, you actually want to start making decoctions. Okay, what does that mean? You get a slow cooker, okay, and then you start taking these herbs as I was talking about, and you take about 1 tablespoon of them and put them in, right? So let's say I have 1 tablespoon of yellow dock, I have 1 tablespoon of sarsaparilla, I have 1 tablespoon of burdock. Okay, great. I'm going to start working with those. I'll put 1 tablespoon each in, and then again, I'll add 1 cup of water with every tablespoon that I add, right? So if I'm adding 5 different herbs, then I have 5 cups, okay? So just 1 cup per tablespoon that you're using. And then you use a slow cooker and you put it on for about 8 to 10 hours. And then afterwards, you got an incredible brew there. You got an incredible elixir that is going to clean you out like crazy. And I've been doing it, and it works, and it's powerful. Your energy starts getting better, your complexion starts looking better, your digestion feels better, your bowel movements start to increase again. It's amazing. You're getting the poison out of your system. That poison is acid and mucus. So, Jijo, that is what I'd recommend for you. Keep getting into that alkaline food, okay? Didar says, question, hey Adronis, is Baba Sri Chand and Mahavatar Babaji the same person? I would say yes. Okay, you don't even need Adronis for that, okay? You're looking at those and that would represent Babaji. Babaji basically incarnates as several of these different particular types of masters that will be here for a particular time to bring about a spiritual change on the planet. So I would say yes, that they would represent the same person, okay? Moving on to Samar. Hi Brad, can you share your experience with third eye activation or opening? Well, see, it's not as dramatic or cinematic as people believe the idea of the third eye is. I can go back into just this past Lionsgate, and I can tell you exactly what's happened because I think I shared it on a previous webcast as well too, is that I was just sitting on the couch and I was just doing some breath work, and I was working with Trataka. Okay, Trataka is where you're actually staring at a candle flame for about a minute or two, and then you start closing your eyes. As I started closing my eyes, I started to see the face of a Hindu goddess. and it was revealed as Shakti, right? So I was basically seeing, you could say, the center of a torus field, right? The center of a hyperturquoid. And coming out of the center of the hyperturquoid was a face. And it was a bluish face, and it was the face of Mother Shakti, right? And so I was able to see her with great clarity in that way. The best way I could put it is that I've had multitudes of third eye awakenings, right? It's not just one, you can have many of them. Just like when I've done Kundalini Shaktipat with others, I haven't had just one Kundalini Shaktipat, I've had hundreds, right? When you start performing Kundalini Shaktipat onto others, you reciprocate their Kundalini awakening. You're actually feeling their Kundalini awakening at the same time they're feeling it. So I've had hundreds of Kundalini Shaktipat awakenings. I've had quite a few third eye awakenings as well too. So to me, it's not some trumpet sounding event where you feel like everything's so cinematic and it's brilliant and like music's playing in the background and then all of a sudden you're seeing like a supernova coming out and all that. It's not about that. That's not how I would paint it at all. It is a very subtle thing, right? It's just the idea that you're sitting in meditation and now everything pertaining to the universe opens up to you. And you feel this interconnectedness with everything you sense, right? It's a very, very beautiful experience. It's kind of like the blossoming of your own soul. You feel yourself blossoming up, and you feel this love, and you feel this interconnectedness, and you can see these beautiful planes of reality, you could say. And it's a monumental moment. But in that sense, it's still a very subtle thing. It's not loud. It's not like your body's cracking open in that way, because I haven't felt that, right? I could feel like some pulses coming in the third eye and so forth. But it's not like your whole body is levitating or every cell is turning into a fiery, blazing star or anything of that nature. Mine have been very, very subtle, okay? So when you're looking at experiences of third eye activation, you never really expect it, because I certainly wasn't expecting to have those things. It always came to me when I least expected it. Just like, again, on the Lion's Gate, connecting with Mother Shakti. I had no intention of connecting with the Divine Mother Goddess, right? I had no intention of that. And like I said, I'm aware of a lot of different Hindu goddesses, but I was not even, that was not even on my mind to do that. And she came out and she was just with me, right? She was with me and I could see her actually opening my eye a lot more. It was very, very beautiful. And I have absolute love for the Mother Goddess, right? That is one of her forms. And I noticed that there are Hindus that have basically spent decades of their own life praying every single day just to have a vision like that. And to me, it just came out of the blue, right? I had no intention with it. And that is why I feel that they set themselves back too much. This is the problem with people who go into states of devotion. When they go into devotion, they don't know how to release the thought. All they do is they spend every waking moment of their life charging it up, but they don't know how to let it go. And as soon as they're able to let it go, that vision of the mother will come to them, right? But this again is the problem with these religions, with these, I would say even religious tendencies, because Hindu isn't a religion, but it has a religious-like tendency to it. Right? And that's the point, is that they keep holding on to having the mother come to them, or to having the father coming to them, or whether it's Shiva or Vishnu or Brahma or whoever it may be, right? They keep holding on to it. They keep charging it. They won't even sleep. They'll just keep holding on the charge. They'll keep holding on to the thought. They'll keep holding on to the thought. And now it becomes as big as a sun itself. But they keep holding it, and they keep holding it, and they keep holding it, and they keep holding it. I said, what's stopping you from releasing that? You release it, you let it go, you don't give it another thought, something grand is going to come about. Okay? It's the exact same premise pertaining to people who want a third eye activation. Right? If you keep thinking about it and you keep holding on to it and you keep thinking that maybe there's something wrong with you, or that your third eye is closed, or the onion itself just won't do it, and I'm never going to be able to do this, and you keep holding on to that thought, and you keep holding on to that belief, well, of course nothing's going to happen to you. But when you start working with it, and you start working with the breath, and you start sending that energy up, you start doing Shambhavi Mudra, and you start looking up, you do all of that work, and then you release it. And then shortly after, something very monumental takes place. That's how it works. You have to learn to let go of your manifestation. You don't keep holding on to it. So a third eye activation, Samar, is what you really want to look into. Don't hold on to it. Charge it up, but then after you charge it, let it go. And let it come to you. Let it come to you in its own free time, because it will. But you have to be at the right moment to receive it, because it's a precious, precious thing, just like I did on the Lion's Gate. Okay? Thanks for your question. Okay, Mahash here says, let me just, before I go back to these guys, I have to look for, I forgot that there's more donations. Let me come back to you guys. Let's go to the next donation-based question. Sorry, guys, I forgot to scroll down. EUM142. Hi, Brad. One rock singer recently said, if people don't struggle, they don't accomplish anything. What's your perspective on this? In a way, that's true. Right? Your struggling is not really a struggle. You see, that's the thing. Is that when a person is struggling, they don't realize that they are being their own resistance, right? To struggle is to fight against the truth, okay? To suffer is to be resistant against the truth. To struggle is to be resistant in changing yourself. That's why you struggle. You don't want to accept what has happened to you in life. And you're resistant to the truth, and you're resistant to change. That's the only reason why there's struggle, right? We fight with that, because we want something our way. We're not listening to life. We're not listening to the people around us. We're not listening to ourselves. We get caught up in this barricade. And like I said, when I look at Charlie Kirk, like I said, blessings to him and all that he did. But like I said, I didn't find him to be that intelligent of a person, right? He read too many books. That's a problem, right? If you read too many books and you get assigned to these books, you start to look at them as the gospel, you are completely perverting your mind. Reading a lot of books really in no way is like watching a bunch of TV shows. Reading a lot of books is like just being in front of people, constantly telling you and regurgitating all of this stuff to you. And you basically start adopting these things. Reading a bunch of books can be as hazardous as plopping yourself on the floor and watching a bunch of television shows or a bunch of movies. It's the same thing. It's just in literature form. Reading a bunch of books is not going to enlighten you. Reading a bunch of books is not going to elevate you. I would say the least that you read, the better, right? I've read quite a few books myself. But what I've learned is I've cleared away my ignorance in thinking that what I see in that book must be the truth. And I don't see that. I simply look at the book now and see it's a perspective, right? And if the perspective is a compliment in regards to what I'm feeling about myself, great, then I can look into it, okay? But basically the point here is that we start to get a lot of these things based on what other people say. We take for granted what other people think the world is, and we think that we have to think like them because those people have such a big following. They got hundreds of thousands of followers, they got millions of followers, and they see the world in this way. Oh my God, I better start seeing the world in this way too if I want to get on that bandwagon, right? And that becomes a struggle, right? You're creating struggles for yourself because you're not appointing your own heart as the beacon of truth. You're not appointing yourself to be the messenger of your own truth. You're going off and you're listening to other experts. You're going off and reading a bunch of books. That is not knowledge. That is not intelligence. That is intellect, right? So I would say that Charlie was a very intellectual man, but he was not intelligent. I didn't think he was intelligent. I don't think he was a good debater. But like I said, he reached people, right? And there's a lot of things that he says, and I'm kind of like shaking my head like, Charlie, shame I wasn't able to do a debate with you, because I debate with you about quite a few things that you're very incorrect on. But that's fine. Like I said, he basically came of a certain crowd, right? And like I said, blessings for everything that he did, because he was he had just so much influence on this planet. He had that charisma. He had that magnetism, right? He had that magnetism of the leader, right? He had that leader mentality for sure. That was very much his nature. But like I said, there's struggle. You look at his face, it's a man full of struggle. It's a man full of fighting. He didn't want to break down his own beliefs to see the truth. So when we're looking at a rock singer that's saying if people don't struggle, they don't accomplish anything. Well, again, if you're struggling, it's not about accomplishing, right? If you're struggling, you really are not accomplishing anything. If you struggle, you don't accomplish anything. All you're doing is accomplishing the tasks altogether. It's that when you let go of the struggle and you listen to yourself, you have entered in that way the truest accomplishment, the realization of the self. So I would entirely agree with that, rock singer. Okay? When you're going into struggle and you think that something is being accomplished, the only thing that's being accomplished is your own ignorance. So, no, I would say accomplishment comes when you're actually able to look past your struggle, break it down, surrender to it, release it, and then see who you truly are. And that is the one and only, I wouldn't say accomplishment, but the closest thing to it, right? Anything else in life, what you're doing in tasks and all that stuff about accomplishing those things, that's nothing, right? Really what you look for, it's like when we look at life reviews, or even let's go back beyond that, let's go into dreams, right? When we look at what a dream has done, the dreams that stand out the most are the ones that have touched you the most, right? Where maybe you feel like you rescued somebody, or maybe you feel like you had a really heartwarming moment with somebody else, right? Through an enlightening conversation, or you saw through your own struggle and you saw the light, so to speak, and you had those in dreams. Those are the things that stand out. Do you remember in dreams where you're on a farmer and you're just basically plowing a field? No, because that's not an accomplishment that stands out. But when I get very emotional in a dream, when I feel like I've made a breakthrough in a dream, that's a dream that stays with me for a lifetime. Well, exactly. Because that's what this life is all about. It's about what stands out with you, what has touched your heart, what has touched you, that has enabled you to see who you are. That's the only thing that matters pertaining to this life. Not about what's in your bank account, not about the type of work that you do, or any of that nonsense. Those are just catalysts. But it's the idea of what actually touches you, of what actually stands out, right? That would be the closest thing to the idea of an accomplishment, right? But even when you get there, the accomplishment fades away, and now you just simply see yourself for who you are. That's the greatest thing. But yes, it's true. We go through a lot of struggle to finally realize that we just need to let go, right? It builds up and builds up and builds up. And it's not to say that that's the way to do it, but that's the way a lot of people do it, right? I mean, it happened to me. I went through a lot of struggle, a lot of hardship, and I finally decided to break it all down and see who I was, right? And of course, I had to go through it that way as well, too. Does everybody have to? No. But pretty much almost everybody does. So there you have it. But it's not about accomplishment. It's about realization. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, we got the Year of the Fire Horse. Yes, of course, I talked to him not too long ago. Hi, Adronis. Are there any positive physical changes that some of us might experience regarding the evolutionary jump that is occurring with our species? Okay, so this is a cue to bring Adronis in, and we can talk about that. If we have any positive physical changes, okay, so we're not talking about emotional here. If there's any positive physical changes that some of us might experience regarding the evolutionary jump that is occurring with our species. Okay, 1 minute. Terra Soul Star Sirius Adronis. We are here at this time. We bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning into this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. We thank you very much for your question about looking into positive physical changes pertaining to, as you would say, big leaps in your own evolutionary development. Well, that really depends on the person. And it also depends in regards to what you're willing to look at. So when you see that, again, the times ahead that you may feel are coming that may help to enrich you, and that you want to look at that enrichment pertaining to the physical body, Well, this is where we've talked to you just the previous week of your time relating to the idea of alkaline foods. So when you start to take care of your body, you are going to see physical changes. Not only with how you nourish yourself through food, but how you nourish yourself through the body. As you perform your breath work, as you start to work with posture, as you start to work with sleeping, not to basically, shall we say, dream, but to basically engage yourself in a state of rest. If you actually start to move yourself much more into the nature of rest, you will actually sleep less. What happens is that, just like many other things, sleep becomes an addiction. It is not necessary for you to sleep for 8 hours per night. In the idea of simple restfulness, you only need about half that time just to rest, because that's the nature of sleep. The sleep itself is not actually meant to carry you off into dreams. Dreams are a byproduct in regards to a very, very hyperactive mind. When the mind is offset, dreams are basically a language that is helping to bring you back into balance. Which means when you're in a true state of restfulness, you should not dream at all. You have what you would term as your rapid eye movement, but dreams are really just a side effect of an active mind. They are the result of people that are in states of confusion, quite commonly. Now, there can be, as you would say, very uplifting dreams, but those dreams simply represent degrees of transits. You're transiting yourself up higher layers. You're buffering yourself to higher frequencies. But when you're really playing a lot with dreams, dreams are trying to bring you back into balance. They are like an antidote in that way. But hardly anybody understands the true nature of dreams on your planet. They feel that dreams need to be something pertaining to an exploration, that I need to dream, that I have to dream. I need to look into these things in that sense, and you certainly can. But again, you're not really getting rest. What's happening is you're exploring your own psyche for answers because you're confused. So when we're talking about actually moving into rest, it should be as what you would term as dreamless sleep. And when you're in a state of dreamless sleep, and believe us when we say that the yogis know exactly what we're talking about. When you're going into that state of dreamless sleep, you are actually far more rested, and you really only need about half the time. Not 8 hours, but 4 hours. So that again can represent a positive physical benefit for yourself. Well, Adronis, how do I get into rest? By calming the mind before you sleep. You calm the mind down before you sleep. You start working with your breath. You start moving into silence. You start moving into stillness. And you stay in that alignment, just following the breath as you go off into rest. Not sleep, but rest. So this is where, again, it's about getting out of the nature of sleep that would represent the definition of a dream experience, and moving much more into the idea of restfulness, or we could put it in this way, getting out of dreamful sleep and getting into dreamless sleep that accommodates rest. That would be the idea. So again, working together with that prowess can help you understand the physical improvement and physical positive changes that are taking place for you evolutionary. But again, what you're asking is something that is subjective. We cannot guarantee that the entire collective consciousness is going to bring about those positive physical changes that you know you want to see, because everybody's different. Everybody is going to have their own things to deal with. So again, they do not feel that they want to eat alkaline food. They feel that the food they have is a comfort food. It is a pleasure food, and that's really why they want to eat it more than anything else. Not because they want to get healthy, but because they want to forget their problems. That's why they eat the way they eat. That's why we say, again, there's alkaline foods, and there's foods that heal, and there's foods that cure you. But in that way, that means taking away your foods that are helping you to forget about your problems. Your foods have become your alcohol. Your foods have become your drug. And they utilize the nature of food for drugs because they basically want to sedate themselves by having a coffee. They want to sedate themselves by diving and gorging into a cake. They want to sedate themselves by eating a big piece of meat. They want to sedate themselves with all of this candy and all of this chocolate and all of this processed foods. They want to be sedated and not be healthy. That's why they stay with that, and it becomes an addiction. As we stated, if any food gives you an addiction, then you're basically eating a drug. Because the foods that we're talking about here that are purely wild, purely alkaline, are not addictive in any way. They have no addictive ingredients. That's not about sugar or caffeine or anything of that particular nature. Those are all addictive ingredients. And whenever you find that, you're looking at all of those sugars, those forms of gluten, all of those additives that are being added to these foods, then you're playing with drugs. You're not playing with food. Because natural food has none of that. Natural food should not make you addicted in any particular way. So again, this is why we say that it's a subjective physical change. So we could look at someone who does see the idea of when they sleep, they're actually moving into dreamless sleep. They are resting. That when they are eating, they're bringing in alkaline into their body. They are healing the acid and the mucus within the body, and it's being purged out altogether. And they feel the physical difference. But if you're not doing any of that, and you think that just the times ahead are going to evolve you, you're missing the point. What the times ahead are going to continue to do is constantly remind you of these ideas until you do them. You see, you think that within the next several years that there's going to be some sort of giant phenomena that's going to encapsulate you into a light ball and then take you off the planet, and there you're just happy and enjoying yourself altogether based on that phenomena. But that's not going to happen. Everything pertaining to what you can become is a here, right now. But you have to follow that path. You have to listen to yourself. You have to realize. Realization is the greatest gift you can ask for. You realize what you are doing to your body and you decided to change it. And now the physical changes that are taking place upon your body are exceptional. Yes, there's going to be planetary alignments. You have your 3-eye Atlas comet coming in, taking its own trajectory between Mars and Earth, traveling through, leaving behind seeds of growth. And that can help to a certain degree, but that's not going to put you to where you want to be. Because where you're going to put yourself to where you want to be needs to come through realization. It's not going to come through a comet. It's not going to come through a moon cycle. It's not going to come through a planetary alignment. It's not going to come from somebody out here, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's an expert, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a being from another world. That's not the answer. Your only liberation comes from the realization that you have for yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That's the only thing that's going to make a difference, is when you realize who you are, when you realize what you can do for yourself, when you realize you can make yourself healthy, when you realize you can actually rest rather than go into dreamful sleep. When you realize these things and they touch you, that is the greatest evolution. You see? We thank you for your question. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Thank you for your question. All right, so that is the last of the donation-based questions, so I'll go back up to the top of the list here. Okay. Okay, this one here is from, not too sure if I can pronounce the name, but the question is, hi Brad, will Vietnam be the next Nepal? I don't think so. I think we're going to be looking at Vietnam in that sense holds a great strength to itself, a great courage to itself, right? I don't see it as being a Nepal in that way. I think it's going to go through a lot of oppression, of course, but the Vietnamese and the energy of Vietnam holds a very strong energetic. And I think that that energetic could be, even though it looks like it may move that way, I think that there's going to be a great revolution that will come together with Vietnam in the times ahead. So I see that Vietnam itself will actually have much more of a growth, a much more stronger current ahead for itself that could actually be a standout nation. Perhaps, again, moving into something like independence as well. So I don't see it going down that same path. Okay, let's go on. Okay, this one here is from Alina. Alina says, hello Brad, can we influence our bodies and mind to come back to the states of coherence when we feel anger, just by using breath work, or our intentions are necessary to make it more effective? Well, your intention sets everything, right? Your intention is kind of like the bullseye. It's like the HUD, right? And you're basically putting the HUD into this and say, okay, this is going to be my focus. Your intention is your pull to focus, okay? So you're using your pull to focus and working with your breath and being aware of when you feel angry. Again, what you're talking about is very much what I've created through trauma transcendence technique, right? So I'm giving you guys kind of like the flash in the pan short idea here of the TTT, is that I get people to look at situations that they're currently going through. And let's just use this as an example, okay? I have a person, for example, that has a person bullying them, right? And they're constantly bullying them, and it's this person at work, and they have high demands out of you, and they want you to get all your work done on time, and they're trying to ask things of you that you're not even qualified to do, right? But you look at them and they feel so incredibly assertive and aggressive, and they're always giving you a hard time, and it feels like you can't get a word in, right? So I would look at that person, okay, I want you to look at that person, and right, just be aware of the emotions that you're sensing through yourself. But I want you to look at that person, because let's say this is presently happening with you. And I would ask that client of mine, with this person that you describe, does he remind you of anybody else from your past? Oh yeah, Brad, it actually reminds me of an old kid back when I was 8 years old who would bully me a lot, and he would do the exact same things to me, and that was what happened. Okay, was there anything else before that time of that 8-year-old situation? No, that's the thing that it stands out the most. So basically what we can say is that little bully that bullied you when you were 8 years old was the first cause. Okay, that's the red domino. That's the big beast. So as we look at this current person here who's bullying you, who's threatening you, who's aggressive with you, and he just is a spitting image of this little kid who is bullying you, threatening you, being aggressive with you, that situation that traumatized you back when you were 8 years old is the first cause to your problem. So rather than focusing on this guy, I want you to go back into your younger years to when you were 8 years old, and I want you to look at that bully. And now that you're looking at that bully, I want you to be aware of your emotions, your traumas, your desires, and the capital fear. Okay? When we look at emotions, we're looking at anger, sadness, fear. Did this bully make me feel angry, sad, fearful? It's something you got to ask yourself. If any of those apply, then we're basically just creating a ball and we're putting those emotions into it. Then we go on to the next layer. Was there any traumas that this bully was doing, right? Did he make you feel like you were abandoned, rejected, abused, wanting to escape? Wanting to escape, yes. Abused, yes. Rejected, yes. Okay, that goes in the ball. Then we go into desires. Now when we go into desires, what do you wish you could do when you're in that situation? I just feel like I wish I could run away, but he always kept following me. I wish I never knew the kid. I wish I didn't have to be in that situation. I wish. So these are the wishful desires that are trying to get you into a state of escapism. They go into the ball. Then we go into the state of capital fear. What did this bully really do to you? Really, when you look at its essence, what did this whole situation representing this bully, what did it do? What did it make? How did it make you feel about yourself? Ashamed. I felt completely ashamed. I felt like I was little. I felt like I was a peon. I just felt so ashamed just to be around this person and to even be around myself afterwards. Great. We found your capital fear. The capital fear is the core to the lack itself. That very nature that creates this problem altogether comes from a state of lack. And that state of lack in that sense is coming through shame. And shame is the lowest frequency that you can go when you're looking at the emotional scale. So that capital fear is telling you, here's my shame. Here's what I felt so ashamed of. Here's what I felt was my fear of death, right? The fear of the fear, absolute fear of being ridiculed, of being embarrassed, of being humiliated. How did all that make you feel? It brought me down to shame. Exactly. Felt like I just wanted to end myself and didn't want to be here. Exactly. So we put that into the ball. And now we put all those into the ball and we just create a little white dot right in the center. And then when we do that, we just ask ourselves the question, now that I've looked at this, am I ready to let this go? Yes, I'm ready to let this go. Okay, great. So I want you to look at that little white dot in the center of the sphere where you've put all of these emotions, traumas, desires, and capital fear in. And I want you to mentally Om chant directly into that white dot. Om. And you do it again and again and again and again. And you're holding that ball and you just keep mentally Om chanting into it, just focusing on the dot, not the story, focusing on the dot until the hands touch. When the hands touch, that's telling you that the ball itself is gone. And now we go into the second part where we check within ourselves and we see if any of that residuals remain. So we have another little ball on standby and we put any other little residuals there. And we can put that into the ball and you're still just mentally Om chanting until the hands touch. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and relish what you've done. You've released it, right? You witnessed it. You witnessed the whole situation, which means you weren't getting caught up in the whole drama of it. You saw it for what it was. You surrendered to it, and you let it go. You released it, right? So that's what we're doing here. So when you're talking about influencing your body and mind to come back to the states of coherence, when you feel angry, of course you can. Absolutely. That's what the breath does. That's what we do with the parasympathetic. That's the pre-prep process when we go into the trauma transcendence technique, is to get you into that state of calmness, is to get you into the parasympathetic, where you're working with your breath. And it's not that you're really influencing it. You're basically just calming yourself to bring yourself into the awareness of what the entire event was. And your intention, that pulled focus, brings you there, right? So that's what you're doing. Of course, you use breath work, and that is extremely important. You want to work with breath work until you're naturally calm. Okay, and like we said, when we work with breath work, we're doing something like pranayama, right? Ujjayi pranayama, Rachaka pranayama, alternate nostril breathing, whichever you prefer. Those are all fine. They all work well. But what you're looking for is, number one, your eyes are dilated. Okay, number two, there's an increase of saliva in your mouth. Number three, your body may feel a little bit heavy, or your hands may feel very warm or very hot. Okay? When you're sensing these particular signs, you may also feel like a very light buzzing around yourself. There's kind of this floaty, buzzy feeling as well too. That is also a very good sign that you're moving into the subtle state of being. We want to be in the subtle state of being because that's showing that you're active with your parasympathetic nervous system. Okay? The parasympathetic nervous system needs to be charged up, needs to be active, needs to work through you in order for us to look at these states of anger, or again, traumas, or again, desires, capital fear, right? So what I do with the trauma transcendence technique is I give you a 4-layer cake. Emotions, traumas, desires, capital fear. Because that's the entirety of this diluted sphere that represents this trauma itself, that represents this lack. And you're looking at that and you're clearing it away. And I do this with clients live, right through private live sessions. And now they're gone. Their whole situation with that is gone now. They don't feel it anymore, and they just feel this peace that just showers over them. And I said, oh my God, I had that in me for like 30 years. And Brad, this is all I had to do. That's all you had to do. We work with the breath. We get yourself into the parasympathetic. You become receptive, right? You use your intention to pull focus, to put that intention there of what you're looking at. And then we work with bringing everything into the ball. Om chanting it away, clearing it away. Why the Om? Because the Om is what centers everything back into being. It's what brings everything back into balance. It's what harmonizes everything. It's the chariot. It's that sound vibration that brings everything back to the 0 point, to the ether. That's why we use it, right? So many people underestimate the nature of the Om. When you actually start using it in this way, you will see what the Om truly is. That's why we use it. All right, so Alina, I hope that helps. Very good question, thank you. Okay, this one here is from Eve. Eve says, "Hi Brad, is Czechia there regarding the tipping point? Is Czechia there regarding the tipping?" Okay, I guess she is Czechia nearly there regarding the tipping point? I would say the whole world is pretty much there in the tipping point, but we'll take a look at Czech and see what comes up to the tarot. Thought I'd use my tarot as it's right next to me. Let's see what we get here. So is Czech Republic, Czechia, at the brink of the tipping point, right? Let's take a look. Okay, so from what I'm seeing here, it's coming along. I wouldn't say it's right at the tipping point right now, but all I'm seeing here is a bunch of positive cards. Okay, let me go ahead and show you. So this is the situation right now with Czechia. Okay, so this is telling me that we got new beginnings, we got new surges coming together, new action plan, and this is appropriate as we start to move into 2026, right? The fire horse, the wand representing the fire, the ace representing the one, the hand holding it, new beginnings, new transformations about to take place, okay? The past representing the 10 of Cups, okay? So 10 equaling up to 1. We have Pisces and we have Venus, okay? So we look at Pisces, we look at Venus, we look at love, we look at compassion, okay? The people of Czechia are very loving people, okay? There's a lot of love in the air when it comes to Czechia, maybe not through the leaders, but through the people. They have good hearts, even if those people are getting screwed around. Those people have very brilliant, bright hearts to them, okay? When we look at the present moment, we have the Ace of Cups. Okay, so we're getting some aces here. So we have the Ace of Wands and we have the Ace of Cups. Okay, emotional support, emotional stability, healing. Okay, that is available for Czechia. That's taking place right now. The near future, we have the Queen of Cups. So you see how this is a very emotional time. We're getting a lot of cups here. Okay, there's another cup card after this as well too. We have the Queen of Cups, which means what? Maturity, emotional maturity, expansion, starting to get past an old cycle and becoming wiser from what we've seen. Okay, so the maturity factor is opening up for Czechia. Then we have the overall outcome. We have the Page of Cups. Okay, so with the Page of Cups, again with that little fish popping up, surprises, new developments, new orientations, again symbolizing new beginnings. The page being the child holding up the cup and seeing that little fish coming out, right? Which indicates the idea of transformation, which indicates the idea of a message, a transformation, a new coming about for Czech. Okay, so I would say it's in good hands. I would say it's in good shape. This is just what I'm getting from the tarot here. Like I said, even though people are being pushed around, their hearts are still strong, right? So when you're looking at Czechia, this is telling me that the people are there, even when there's been malice, their hearts are still strong, right? They still stand together. They feel like a united people. That's really what I'm getting here from that reading. So Czechia is in a very good state, okay? And in the future, it is going to move forward in a very positive direction. We'll see how that goes, okay? Thanks for your question. Okay, this one here is from Julie. Julie says, "Hi Brad, is plasma coming soon? When we will have plasma generators and vehicles?" I would really like to think so, but I haven't seen that in the chart in regards to the next few years, no. Again, unfortunately, they're still just going to be pushing a lot of these common, quote-unquote, alternative technologies, like solar, like wind, like tidal, okay, but all those are basically monopolies themselves. The closest thing I could think of is probably looking at some magnetic technology to come, maybe some piezoelectrics in that way. Plasma could be something that could come a little bit further down the road, but I would say probably within the next 5 years, not really. For plasma, maybe the next 15, 20, 25, approximately around that time. I know, guys. This is the thing. I tell you guys these things, and I love to say, oh yeah, it's coming out tomorrow. Right? I'd love to say that 0 point energy is coming out tomorrow. Right? And that's going to basically make the game change for everybody. I'd love to tell you that portal technology is coming out tomorrow, and you can basically just transport yourself anywhere you want on the planet. That would be amazing, but it's not coming. Right? So, like I said, there's a lot of things that we want to have come out through the collective consciousness, but what we want and what comes are two different things. Plasma technology, still a little bit of a ways away. Okay? But it will come. It will be a part of the eventual future, but not for quite some time yet. Okay? I know, it sucks. It would be great, but we don't, it's not in the collective consciousness. I'm not in charge of the collective, right? The collective's in charge of the collective. Okay. Yeah, the bringer says what I loved about Charlie was his boldness to challenge the status quo. Absolutely. That's what made him stand out so well. He got in the face. He basically was coming from a conservative viewpoint, right? He considered himself a conservative. And he would always challenge the status quo. And he would challenge authority in that way. This is why he made so many enemies. This is why he actually got death threats. And of course, he didn't take it seriously. And this is what led to his end, right? But like I said, he basically was a symbol for what we all went through, right? Exactly how he lost his life is a symbolism of what has happened to many of us, where we have been shot in the throat, where we try to speak up and we get shot down, right? So I think that's the greatest symbolism that he left us with. Out of all the communications that he ever left us with, what happened to him is going to stand out the most for all of us to help us become better, to help us grow. So you would say that his memory would not be in vain. He actually left us with the greatest gift of letting everybody know this is what's happened to us. What happened to him physically is what's happened to us energetically. And again, he is going to be a very powerful figure for people to stand up and share their voice. Right? And coming together as a collective. So yes, I agree with that. But like I said, his symbolism is passing is going to be monumental, right? He is going to be a very strong carrier of a greater age pertaining to the collective, to where the younger kids now start to see the importance of unifying. Because the kids were one of those big groups that were so segregated. And now with Charlie gone, they're going to start coming together, right? And it's as Adronis has said in the past, is that the children are going to be the innovators of the future. They are going to be the ones who are going to be the master inventors. They are going to be the ones that are going to bring the people together. And it's events like this that are going to encourage them to unify. Because now we're seeing on the internet of these kids that are now coming together, checking for people who are bashing Charlie, who basically said, oh good, he's dead now, ha 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 ha, right? And they're actually trying to hunt these people down as well too. So again, there's that collective intent. I think there's better ways to spend your time, but nonetheless, that's what they're doing. They're working as a collective now, and their intentions are going to be a lot more bigger than what they're doing right now. But it's like lighting up a match, lighting up a candle, and then having that candle light up more candles and more candles. Now you have a room of 1,000 candles now, where these candles are now lit. They're now open, and they're standing together. So again, this is what Charlie has brought to the entire world now, is unity consciousness. They've made him a martyr, and now you're going to have millions of Charlie Kirks running around. Okay, let's go on. Okay, this one here is from Kuru. The guy in WikiLeaks has been put in prison. Sorry to bust anybody's bubble, but the guy of WikiLeaks, okay, Julian Assange, has been dead for quite some time. Okay, the person you see right now as Julian Assange is his double. That is an avatar. The real Julian Assange died quite a few years ago, so that's not the real Julian Assange that you're seeing. So again, that's all part of stage plays that are going on. Those are false flags, psyops, blah 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 blah. But they play a role because, again, they'll represent information, informants, stuff like that. But it's all just, like I said, it's all a drama, a game. What we saw with Charlie in regards to, like I said, how he left was not just the idea of the play. How he left this world was such a symbol in regards to helping the young people come together into unity consciousness. And that's why I don't bash it. because that's so powerful, right? That is going to help so many kids to come together and bless Charlie that is how he left this world. It's a horrible thing that happened to him, but how he left this world is going to impact so many of the youth, and the youth are now going to start coming together because of his sacrifice, right? And it's not going to be in vain. That's a beautiful thing, right? Let's go ahead and move on. Yeah, I know. Mary says, wow, let's judge someone's intelligence after they were just killed. How intelligent is that? Well, like I said, I'm not bashing Charlie in any way. I think Charlie was a great guy. But like I said, I'm just telling him that you're telling the truth, right? I never really saw him as someone who had that intelligence. He had that intellect. What was great about him, like I said, is that he stood up against the status quo, right? But like I said, if I'm being honest, and like I said, when I leave this world, guys, you are more than welcome to criticize me in any way you want. I don't care, right? But it's just what I've seen, right? What I've seen with Charlie is that he was an incredible human being, absolutely. But like I said, there were just some things in regards to debate that I think he could have done a little bit better. And I just don't feel like a lot of the stuff he was sharing came from a state of intelligence, but from a state of intellect. I'm not in any way saying that Charlie is dumb or anything of that nature, far from it. I'm just saying that the incredible potential of intelligence that he had was not being used. And it could have been used better, because a lot of his knowledge came from books. A lot of it came from experts in that sense. And so from from what I'm sharing with him, right, because I know he's listening, is that, his gift was his intellect. His gift was his ability to stand up. He stayed very strong with his beliefs, right? So I'm not criticizing him and thinking that he was incompetent or that. No, quite not. You are not going to be incompetent if you're bringing that many people together with you and you're having these incredible events and you're touching people's lives. That requires an incredible amount of courage and strength and heart and determination, and he had that, right? But like I said, I just don't feel like his intelligence was being shown in the way that it could have. There's a lot of potential that he had, and he wasn't showing it. But again, how he left this planet and the people that he touched is, again, something that is going to be monumental that will carry forward to the future. So there you have it. Now, I'm not insulting his intelligence or anything like that. I just think he had more capability of intelligence that he wasn't using, right? And that, again, he used much more of intellect because he was reading a bunch of books. And like I said, reading a bunch of books is no more different than just sitting down and watching a bunch of TV shows or watching a bunch of movies, right? And I think Charlie had the ability to move much more into a deeper intelligence level. That's all, right? Like I said, guys, you can poke at me too. I'm not perfect in any way. There's certain things you can poke at me with, and that's fine. But like I said, I just look at these things and I'm honest with them. I'm not here to be politically correct, my friends, and I'm not going to be politically correct. I'm always going to share what's on my mind. I'm always going to share the truth in the best way that I can understand the truth. And you guys can poke at me, right? If you want to criticize me, if you want to poke at me, if you want to look at things that maybe I'm not doing that I could be doing, I always welcome that, right? It's not a problem, especially coming from someone who's a debater, right? Because I love to debate. And especially when we're looking at debates, you want to try and surrender yourself. You're neutralizing yourself. And Lord knows I've had many debates with all kinds of people over the world who basically said, Brad, you could be doing this a lot more, or you could be doing that a lot more. Oh, great, thank you. Okay, you see how that's not someone plunging a dagger in my heart. They're giving me something actually very constructive. And whether you're still in a body or whether you're not, you're listening to these conversations because it's all energy. I can tell you guys that when the time comes when I croak and I hear everybody talking about me, believe me, I'll be present in those conversations. You don't think that they are? They very much are. And it can help them because it's perspective that they're observing still. They're now able to be everywhere at once. And that's the beautiful thing when you leave this body. You guys talk about me after I croak. I can guarantee I'll be listening. Okay, that's a promise. So there you go. All right, let's go ahead and move on. This one here is from Nancy. Nancy says, are your new devices good for regulating nervous system, as have a lot of problems at the moment with this, and which one would be better? So if you're referring to RAYD8, yes, RAYD8 can help with that. If you're referring to like the healing code cards that I've got in etherics, yes, of course, they are all here to help you with that. Like I said, they're not here to quote unquote cure the problem, but they're here to help you with it, They're here to give you that boost that you need to help with the nervous system to recover. But like I said, we need to make changes. We need to make changes in our diet. We need to make changes in our sleep routine. We need to look into, again, the core things that we hold on to and clear them away. So again, that is what's helping with it. So it's helping you in that way. It's giving you a boost. There's have been people who have used the cards and they've been able to clear their sore throats. They've been able to clear away their asthma. They've been able to clear away diabetes with it. It helps, right? It certainly can. But like I said, it's just important that we don't repeat those patterns to come back to that. That's the most important lesson. So yes, whether you're looking at RAYD8, whether you're looking at the healing code cards, when I launch Anoint Array, there'll be some products there as well too that you can look at. And they are all there to help, right? It's basically energetic medicine. Just like food's a medicine, but again, if you stop taking the good food, then you go back into the old patterns. So like I said, we want to keep taking it. But again, looking into the core stuff yourself and clearing that out, that's the most important thing. Okay. Kuru says, have you seen what is happening in Nepal? I have not seen what's happening in Nepal. Right, let's go ahead and take a look. I'll do a quick look at Nepal. Okay, Nepal's president appoints former chief. Let's see, protests keep a South Asian youthquake in motion. More than 12,500 escaped prisoners in Nepal, still on the run. Protest, resignation, and a breakthrough. Let's see, Nepal gets first woman prime minister. This is our Nepal, a wounded Gen Z protester, fight for a better future. Nepal's courageous new PM, known for integrity. Okay, well, it looks like Nepal is going through an incredible shift. They're having a new prime minister. Looks like they've had some massive protests going on. And again, you're wondering if Vietnam will be like Nepal. So let's go ahead and take a look at Vietnam. Okay, just give me a minute here, guys. I'm just looking through the top stories with Vietnam. Is Vietnam becoming the new Thailand? That's interesting. Vietnam. I'm honestly not seeing that much in regards to what I've seen with what's happening with Nepal, and wondering if Vietnam is going to be like that. And that's why I said I don't think so. I don't think Vietnam is going to capture that. Sure, it's going to have its own state of problems, but I don't see it as elevated as what we're seeing here in Nepal. Because I can obviously see that there's a lot of fights, a lot of protests going on, the election of a new prime minister, significant changes happening in Nepal. Nepal has always been under, again, constant attack because, like I said, it's one of the most beautiful spiritual centers in the world. It's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. But again, if Thailand is going to become like what Nepal is going through, I don't see it, right? Not to say that Vietnam will not have its own struggles and its own challenges, but I don't see it becoming a next Nepal with what they're going through. So that's my perspective, guys. It's okay. You don't have to agree with me. But like I said, we can always see what the future holds, but I don't see Vietnam going down the same path as Nepal. Okay, that's just me. That's my perspective. Take it with what it's worth. All right, okay. Alina, sorry, let's go back to Energy Vibes. Energy Vibes, hello, Brad. Can you look at the XDC crypto for 2026? XDC, okay. I'll do a short tarot on it and see. Haven't heard of XDC, but we'll take a look. Okay, so is XDC going to do well in 2026? So right here, this was telling me that it may have a pretty good debut. It may have a good presence to itself, right? So there's kind of an energetic rush. It tells me there may be a good surge that may be coming about for it in 2026, as that's the state of it. In the past, it feels like it's just, again, trying to get its bearings, trying to get its legs, right? It may be talked about. So again, when we're looking at swords, we're looking at thought, okay? So we're looking at energies forward. I feel like, again, it could be something that could get a bit of momentum behind it. When we're looking at the Judgment card here, Okay, so this is telling me that it could have a surge. There could be a surge for it, but I feel like it's kind of an intense time in 2026, specifically with the state of Bitcoin. So I feel like it could also tell me this is kind of, it needs to get itself together. There may be some rough rides taking place in 2026. It's not Bitcoin's year, right? The near future, we have the Six of Cups. I'm just trying to, so it's not getting glare there. Six of Cups here, Leo and Jupiter, okay? So with Leo, with Jupiter, so this is telling me again, I think it has a good amount of future for it. So I would say that XDC might actually be a pretty good investment, okay? Then we look at the overall outcome, then we got strength, and again, that is Leo. So that has a lot of Leo energy behind it. So I'd say XDC has a lot of promise for 2026. I don't know if it'll spike up really, really intensely, but I think it could be a good front runner for crypto to look into as it comes into 2026. So it's a good find. Good, thank you for sharing. Okay, right. So again, this is from Alina again. I've been eating only vegetables, fruits, sporadic eggs, and some fish, although I don't like it very much for about 20 years. My stomach feels better. No heartburn or indigestion. Okay, so what I'm saying is not trying to piss anybody off, okay? But it's good that you're eating vegetables and fruits, but we have to know what kind of vegetables and what kind of fruits, because there's hybrids out there, okay? You also have to be careful with eggs, and you have to be careful with fish, because those are acid, mucus-causing foods. I know it feels like you're okay, but if you look deep inside yourself, it may not be okay. I know I was not okay because I was eating all kinds of meat. I was eating eggs and sausages and bacon and chicken and fish and beef and pork. I was eating all of that stuff, right? And I knew I did not feel good. So my friends, unfortunately, there's nothing good that comes from eggs. There's nothing good that comes from fish or chicken or any particular type of meat product, right? When you're basically eating an egg, you're eating a fetus, okay? You're eating something dead. Unfortunately, nothing that is dead is ever going to favor your body, right? It may be very light because its toxic effects may be very, very light, but it's still a toxic effect, right? It's not about trying to eat toxins or even light toxins and think, oh, I'm going to be okay, right? We have foods that are available that can be a lot better. This is just something for you to look into. If you really want to improve your health, you can't keep eating eggs. You can't keep eating fish. You can't keep eating meat. You have to be careful about the type of vegetables and fruits that you're having. Are they seedless? Are they hybrid? You need to be careful with that, because that can be detrimental at the same time too. So the type of limes that I'm eating, because I had a person last week ask, well, Brad, do limes have seeds in it? Well, you're right. There's some limes in grocery stores that you get, and they're often referred to as the Tahiti lime, and they are seedless. They do have minerals in them, but I would refer to them as a bridge food, right? I'm not calling them completely acid, and I'm not calling them completely alkaline. They're good if that's all you have, but I would say try to find something better. But there is also what's known as the key lime, okay? And there's quite a few grocery stores that carry it, okay? So key lime is a smaller lime. It's kind of circular. It has a very thin skin, and when you cut it, you can see seeds, okay? Try to get the seeded fruits, right? So the seeded grapes, the seeded limes, get the seeds, right? Mango, papaya, get the seeded types. If you're getting watermelon, get seeded watermelon. Get those black seeds in there as well too, because that's how you know that they're electrical, okay? They're electrical, or basically they are pranic in nature, okay? So you're getting your prana. We're getting prana foods. So all of the herbs that I've recommended, those are highly charged pranic foods. Highly electrical, as Dr. Sebi would call them. Those are the things that are going to make a difference. That is what's going to clean you out. That is going to clean out all of the mucus. That's going to clean out all of the toxins. That's what's going to clean out all of the problems that you're going through. There is no such thing as germ theory, as I talked about, right? The true nature of the body is a terrain body. It's about the terrain. It is not about a germ. So I talked about this last week. I'll try not to go too much back into it. But when you start understanding that viruses, bacteria, and fungus are part of what's known as microzymas, okay? Microzymas are basically microscopic organisms that live on the walls of tissues. When there is an acidic situation that's happening or a toxic situation that's happening, that microzymus will basically dislodge itself directly from the tissues, and it will transmute itself, because it's polymorphic or pleomorphic, and it is changing into a bacteria, a virus, or a fungus to help combat the situation pertaining to an acidic environment. This is exactly why viruses, bacteria, and fungus are seen existing in acidic areas of the body, because the microzymus that is, again, connected directly to the tissues are basically transmuting themselves. They change, right? They change, they turn into bacteria, virus, and fungi. And they do that to basically adapt to the terrain, and they're kind of like bottom-feeding cleansers. They clean at the bowels of the problem altogether, so they stay alive. So that is exactly how the microzymus is able to stay together. They stay together by going into the states of transmutation cycles. And germ theory scientists will not agree with this. They think that everything pertaining to germs and so forth are mono, right? They have that mono capability to them. They're singular. That if it's a streptococcus, then it's going to stay a streptococcus. No. Everything pertaining to a germ or a microbe is transmutable. They are polymorphic, right? Or pleomorphic, right? Rather than looking at monomorphic, where they're just one thing. So that, again, is where germ theory scientists are incorrect, because you can actually see this under a microscope pertaining to the nature of how the microzymas are able to change themselves into that. So diseases, or not really diseases, but really bacteria, viruses, fungi, are a result of an effect of a dirty area, toxic area in the body. They are not the cause, okay? Because they can shift back once alkaline comes in, and now they become one again with the tissue. So that's the idea right there. It's not about all of these viruses and germs and bacteria and fungi and believing that they are the enemy. They're not. They're actually part of the body to help combat a problem of acidic terrain. This is all going back into a fellow by the name of Antoine Béchamp. You guys can look him up. Okay, even Royal Rife, the inventor of Rife, the Rife machine, knew this, right? He knew about the terrain body. I can go back even further. The founding father of all medicine, Hippocrates, knew this. He treated the body as a terrain body and not a germ theory. He never ever talked anything about germs. About germs are responsible, and it's germs that are basically wreaking havoc. The germs are a byproduct, a result of a toxic environment, right? And this is coming from the founding father of all modern medicine, who basically cured every single disease with what? Did he cure it with chemicals? No. Did he cure it with herbs? Yes. Every disease on the planet can be cured by herbs. That's a fact. It's not a theory. That's not a belief. That is coming from the founding father of medicine himself, who cured every single disease with herbs. And he was alive well over 300 years before Christ. And he was healing everybody. So again, look into that, guys. What I'm talking about here is not some new age concept or some new thing. This has been around for many thousands of years. Even before his time, there were great healers. Do you guys know who the original herbal healers are on the planet? It's the Africans. Okay, the Africans were basically the first herbal healers on the planet, because Africa itself was once just a gigantic jungle, a gigantic lush jungle full of wildlife, full of beautiful resources that were available for us, living resources that we could utilize, living plants that if we had them available today, we could see elixirs that could make a person well probably within under 24 hours. That's how beautiful Africa was and still is, but like I said, they've lost a lot of their way. We have had so much taken away from us. So again, look into these things. Look into the terrain body. Look into herbal foods. Look into herbalism, because that is the answer. That is what cures everything. Okay? All right. Let me go down a bit more. Eve asked, Brad, was Charlie really killed or was it a double? I'm going to leave that up to you guys. I'm not going to touch that, okay? I'm going to leave that to you guys. You guys decide, all right? Okay, so Nancy, again, guys, if you guys want body scans, like I said, is by donation, okay? So it's donation-based if you want a body scan. Just letting you know. Okay, Scorpio asks, hi Brad, hi everyone. Question, will Afghanistan be free from this pure evil? We are suffering a lot here, sending love and light from Afghanistan. Okay, let me go ahead and pull some cards for you. So I'm not gonna talk about this, right? I'm gonna just let the cards speak just for itself. See what we get. Okay, we'll probably only take one more question after this, and we got to wrap up. Good. Sorry about that. That's me slamming the cards. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so what I can see here of what the current situation with Afghanistan is it's run by the cabals. Okay, so again, we need to get the cabals out of these countries, not just Afghanistan, but pretty much all of these other countries that again are going through all kinds of strife. And like I said, I know that's kind of like a worldwide epidemic right now, is that all of these countries have a bunch of these psychopaths running things. I know. And especially what we're seeing here in 2025, because 2025 is giving us a look at harsh endings, and it's a year of death. Okay, that's what the 9 represents. It's conclusions, it's death, it's transition, it's adaptability, it's looking into a lot of these things that have happened and seeing the bigger picture of things, so that when we see the bigger picture, when we start off with the 1 year, we now start making new beginnings to remedy these things. Fortunately, guys, like I said, 2025, for the rest of it, is still going to have a lot more of these intense situations. So, with the past pertaining to Afghanistan, okay, we have the Queen of Wands here. Okay, so even though all of this fighting is here, the people still remain strong. Okay, so there's a Queen of Wands, there's a empowerment, there's a fertility here that's happening. The land will still endure all of this war, all of this fighting that's taking place. The people will still stand. The people will still be here when it's all said and done. The present, okay? So this is, again, when we look at this card, this tells us that there is peace coming from a very high volatile situation, okay? So peace is going to be coming to Afghanistan. The fighting is going to end, okay? So this is Libra and the moon, right? Emotional states, Libra, again, representing balance, okay? But there is war, there is fighting, but something is going to lead into the ceasing of that fighting. When we look into the near future, everything pertaining to the narrative is going to shift. We're looking at Jupiter, okay? Jupiter expands. So when we're seeing a ceasing, then we're going to see much more peace coming over Afghanistan. So Afghanistan is going to be moving into a state of closure relating to all of this fighting that's been happening. Okay, then we have the overall result, okay, and that is the Page of Pentacles once again. So the times of a new beginning. So maybe Afghanistan may have something pertaining to a reward, a large amount of material wealth, right? So maybe material wealth is being given back to the people of Afghanistan, but we're seeing it kind of as a beginning, right? That the lands are now going to start being healed, that we're going to start seeing material wealth coming back to Afghanistan after this fighting has been over, because that's exactly what's been causing so much of the fighting in Afghanistan, is because of its resources, because of what it actually has available. And then when that actually stops and Afghanistan can get back on its feet, it has a very strong economy. It has a resource-rich land that it can work together with. So yes, it will be ending soon. Okay, but right now, like I said, in 2025, these are endings, and it's going to be horrific. Things need to be horrible before they can get better. We have to see it with our own eyes, because people have to be lit up, right? There's too much complacency. There's too many people turning their heads And this needs to be lit up. We need to see with our own eyes about what's going on. Unity consciousness and bring it about. This is what I talk about with a Great Awakening. Okay? All right. So one more question. Ricardo says, I'm carnivore because I hate vegetables. I feel good. Well, just because you're alkaline doesn't mean that you're eating vegetables. Okay? When you're looking into herbs, when you're looking into fruits, when you're looking into things like wild rice, when you're looking into things in quinoa, even if you just decide to have some drinks, right? Have some smoothies and all that. I know you say that you're eating carnivore and you're feeling good. With all respect, Ricardo, you're lying. Okay, take it from a person who's eaten a lot of meat. Okay, and I have eaten a lot of meat, and I can tell you, you don't feel good. So those are your beliefs talking. That's not your body. If I was to go inside your body and start doing a scan with you right now, I would probably find a lot of organs in disarray. I would probably see that your acid content and your mucus content is extremely high. So I know that you're proud and you want to defend your carnivore stuff, but your carnivore stuff is slowly debilitating you. And it's going to degenerate your body. And it's going to make you feel horrible. Carnivore diet, with all due respect, is one of the biggest scam diets there is out there. Because your body cannot survive off meat. I don't know how. It can't get into people's heads that when you're eating through carnivore diet, the only reason why you're losing a few pounds is because you're ejecting the fibrous content contained within your intestines that actually came from fruit and vegetables and fibrous foods in the past. And now that you have evacuated that out of your intestines are going to inflame. Every time you are eating meat, you are eating phosphoric acid, you are eating sulfuric acid, you are eating uric acid. Those acids eat the body alive. And that's what's happening to you. So stay proud as much as you want. I don't care, because that's a lie. The science speaks for itself. And as long as you stay with carnivore, you're making your body incredibly toxic. It is not a good diet to eat. It will debilitate you severely. Just letting you know. That's the facts talking. Facts don't care about your feelings. Right? Just something to look into. Okay, let's go into one last question. Okay, here's one from Azadeh. How can we know we're on a higher version Earth than lower version? Does it make me be on lower since I saw the assassination of Charlie? Well, how do we know we're on a higher version? Well, this is what I've talked about before, is that you're looking at your subconscious, right? How are the people in your life? What do you experience on a daily basis? Are there people who are threatening to harm you? Are you constantly in states of arguments with people? Are you fighting with people? Are you doing everything to try and fulfill your pride? Right? Are you basically screwing people around? Are you gypping people out of money? Blah, 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 blah. Okay? If everything pertaining to your subconscious is anything of that nature, then you're very much still in a very much suffering mentality, right? Your state of suffering, your state of basically being in the lower body, in the lower realm of yourself, is taking place. Because this will form arguments, this will form fighting, this will form debate, this will form quest for money, greed, all of that. So if that is very much apparent in your life, then yes, that's you basically being in the lower trenches of yourself. If you notice, however, that when you're going outside and people are saying hello to you and you're driving around and you're enjoying nature and everything feels peaceful and everything feels quiet and everything feels enjoyable, then you're moving much more into the higher thresholds of yourself. Okay? So it's about being able to look at your own environment, being able to look at your subconscious. And if you're able to look at your subconscious and say, okay, on a daily basis, I'll take a notebook out with me and I'll just see how my morning is. How's my afternoon? How's my evening? How are things before I go to sleep? And I'll look at all those things. If anything is troubling during those points, then I'm going to write that down and I'm going to work on it and I'm going to clear it out. And so just because you saw the assassination of Charlie doesn't mean that that's you in a lower realm. Okay, that's not what it means. Okay? when you're looking at your own subconscious. Okay, I saw the footage. I saw the whole situation with Charlie himself as well too, and how he was killed. I saw it. Does that mean I'm in a lower realm? No. So what gives us the impression of thinking that you're in a lower realm because you see something like that? Right? Self-judgment. Right? We ridicule ourselves, we judge ourselves, we think that if I say this, that's like going out to a movie that we knew was very, very violent, and I seem to enjoy the picture. Oh my God, I must be a horrible person. Not at all. I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed what was trying to tell me, even if it was having violent themes. Right? That doesn't mean that you're in the lower realm. Right? If you're in the lower realm and you're shaking people down for money and you want to get in a fight and you're shoving people around and people are shoving you and you're insulting people and people are insulting you and all of this is coming at you, that would be the idea of a lower realm, because it's seeing how your subconscious reacts to you. But again, if it's the opposite, where it's peaceful, it's loving, people are saying hello to you, there's a joy in the air, that's the higher threshold. Okay? That's really what we can see it as that way. So you gotta evaluate your subconscious. You gotta evaluate your environment. See exactly where you're standing. And if it is a lower realm, we have the ability to clear it if you're willing, because that's the key here. Not because somebody's going to do it for you, but because you're willing to change. Right? Okay. Jan says I skipped her question. Okay, let me see where you are. Like I said, guys, the only way I really hold on to a question is if you guys did a donation one. Okay, so there's Jan's question here. Hi, Brad. Can Adronis talk about AI? Who puts the data information into it? The same applies to Anoint. Where does the info come from? Thank you very much, Jan. That's way too much of a long question. Okay, that's basically a whole discussion within itself. Okay. Who puts the data into it? Well, basically they utilize the entire internet as their data point. So all I can say is when I'm developing Anoint, yes, I'm going to be having parameters with it, but I'm going to be designing it to the point to where it's actually going to be a helper, right? So you could look it up and you can see a lot of different form of facts and information that you can get online, and that becomes the parameters pertaining to the nature of AI. AI in its own nature is a prediction device. That's what it does. You guys need to look up documentaries about how AIs are made. Okay, it's very, very simple, right? It's just a matter of being able to look at prediction-based algorithms. That is AI. It does not have a sentience, does not have an intelligence. It is nothing but a predictive algorithm. What I'm planning to do with Anoint is, yes, there will be that AI incorporation, but it's a hybrid, which means it's taking a lot of engines. I'm going to be developing engines with it, calculation engines, particularly for metaphysics as well too, so you can grab it and you can start doing calculations with it. But it's going to be very different. That's going to take some time to do. But I'm working together with Anoint, yes, having an AI aspect of it, but also having calculation engines and other forms of engines that will basically bring it much more into a factual database. My Anoint is going to be based more on fact than prediction, right? So that's the whole idea. I can't talk more on this because, like I said, it's going to take a very long time. It's a very big topic, but that's something we'd have to leave for another time. We're about to go off the air here pretty quick because we are out of time today, okay? So where does the info come from? It comes from mankind, right? It's our servers. It's our collective consciousness, right? Unless there's some aliens that are contributing and writing along with the internet, okay, maybe it's some of theirs a little bit too, right? But it's everything that represent through our servers, through our knowledge, right, through our internet, being able to get all of this stimulation so that AI understands and builds its parameters. Its parameters are like brain cells, right? So this is why you have some that are 20 billion parameters, 150 billion parameters, 500 billion parameters in that sense. You got all of this knowledge base contained within the AI, but what I feel the mistake is with a lot of these AI companies is they don't know how to utilize it properly. All they're basically doing is trying to store up the parameters, and they're not utilizing the information that they have even through a 20 billion parameter system that could be well utilized, that could function as a calculation system or as an engine to help out with many different factors, as like what I'm doing, creating Anoint AI as a metaphysical engine, as a math engine, as a mentoring engine. heck as a magic engine, right? Looking into the ancient wisdom. Well, as well, being able to bring all of this modern stuff together and applying the metaphysical to it. That's what I'm doing with Anoint AI. Okay, but I haven't even built that yet. That's something that's coming soon. Right now, it's an amalgamation of current AI technologies that make up the Anoint AI mainframe. But in time, Anoint AI will be its own hybrid AI. Not AI, but a hybrid one. The first of its kind. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for all of your questions today. I will go ahead and wrap up today's broadcast. Thank you all for your questions. I will see you next Friday. Though as soon as I get Anoint Array done, I'll be making a video about that. Like I said, feel free to check out the Indiegogo campaign right now for RAYD8 Amrita. Like I said, we're making it bigger, better, and broader. Take care, blessings, everybody. If I got around to your question, forgot your questions today, relax. There's always next week. I'm not going to be able to get to all of your questions, okay? There's a lot of people asking questions today, so I got to who I could. I'm out of time. I do have to go. Please come back next week. We can continue the conversation. Or sign up with the Adronis Patreon. You can ask me your questions there. Or grab a session. You can ask me questions there too. Okay? Take care, guys. Blessings to you all. Bye for now.